Good afternoon, Scott Baker.
Good afternoon, Mikey Ames. 25th of August, 2025. It's time to conduct a distraction audit.
I've never heard this before. Have you heard this before?
I've heard of audits.
Yes.
I have heard of distraction. I clearly am not, it's not a problem for me. This seems to be for the rest of humanity. Goodness gracious.
No, I like the coinage of it. The idea
Yeah.
of, a distraction audit. What is it? How often should you do it? And that might be the first question that a lot of people have. Okay, how often are you doing distraction audits once you've done one the first time? It seems like it's something that you should probably do at least once a year. Maybe you fit this in with your end of the year kind of planning, right? Or maybe it's a quarterly thing. Or maybe you wait till red flags are waving in your face so much that you're like, I'm not getting anything done. And so maybe once a week you have to do something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a long-standing tradition of doing audits of either your diet, keep a food journal. Many people keep different kinds of planners to stay on top of things, and you should be paying attention to where you're most productive or most excited, and kind of move towards your energy. Don't get too hung up on the negative parts. I did think that this was a unique idea. Now, read the field note, edited the field note. It came out this morning. Did I do it today? I didn't actually sit and log the distractions yet, but I have thought I should do this. Yeah. I was aware, like today, and not just because we were going to be having this conversation on Lead Better. By the way, hi to everybody that's joining us here for this. And give me one second, because I forgot to. We're always multitasking on this thing, and so we multi-stream. So this is primarily a Substack conversation, but I want to make sure that everybody that we're connected to here is able to dive in on this, so that if anybody has anything to say, they can.
Right.
That, by the way, was me distracting from what we were talking about while I actually did do a repost on another platform and on Substack, so that it gets out to multiple places. You're usually the wizard in charge of all of that on your end, but I was doing my part.
Right.
So in the middle of that, that's the kind of world that we live in, which is, okay, I'm talking to you, but wait, I got an email. Oh, there was a text that came in. There was this thing, and I had posted something, and now I'm getting a lot of likes on it. And so pretty soon you're getting dopamine hits coming in all kinds of directions. So I did think it would be cool to kind of sit down throughout the day and say, when do I get off track?
Yeah.
Is there a pattern to what gets me off track? That's one part of this field note. The other part is, well, there is a value to distraction sometimes.
Yes.
So you can't wipe this out. The goal is not to become, sort of like, I'm a never distracted person.
Right. So Laurie Santos was on the Andrew Huberman podcast recently, and the clip that went viral, I'm not sure if it went viral or not, but the clip that was shared quite a bit, we actually shared it ourselves, is that when they did a study where they were measuring performance of simply studying material, right?
Okay.
When your phone is in the room, not that it's
right,
you're reaching for it. They're not measuring the number
presence.
of times you
It's mere presence.
Yes. Double-digit increase in performance simply by not having your phone in the room.
Yes, right.
Incredible, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So the audit is more than just because I wouldn't have been aware of that had I not seen that clip. I would have thought to myself, oh, my phone is probably the chief culprit. Let me measure, as I'm trying to figure this out in my audit, how many phone pickups a day. And you can find that inside of your own screen time. So if you've got an iPhone, I'm sure that Android has something similar. You can see the number of phone pickups you have on a daily basis. We could probably really embarrass each other here by where the phone pickup is. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the phone's like on the table and in the other room, and you're just aware of the fact that a notification might come up. That's just as detrimental as if the phone is within reach to you, right? It actually needs to be out of the room. Like, so be careful how you're doing your audit, because there's plenty of stuff that should creep in there that's not.
Yes. So I'm up to try it. I don't know I should probably commit to a day, like, I'll do this. And I did do it recently where I was taking Oliver Berkman's idea of don't have a to-do list for the day. Just do it in reverse, which is, you have things to do. And
Right.
I'm not saying, by the way, this would work for me or even anybody all the time, although for certain kinds of people it might. Particularly people that are like Oliver Berkman. Like a lot of the self-help that's out there, on the internet for this kind of thing is for the independent creator, right? Who doesn't have a
Right.
big team or corporate obligations, and I don't even think they have many kids necessarily, right? So if you're juggling a lot of different things, different thing. But if you just say, here's a blank piece of paper. Okay, I got up, I did this, and you start writing down everything that you actually did that was productive.
Right.
And then you go, I'm writing it down and I'm crossing the line through it. Now I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to cross the line through it. I'm going to be on that Zoom call. Now I'm going to write that down and cross the line through it. And if you just went down, all of a sudden you'd be like, that was a really productive day. That was
Right.
fantastic. I got 20 things done that were pretty amazing. You did an audit in reverse, right? You
Yes.
took the way the day was unfolding. Whereas if you wrote down, like on my list today, 34 things to get to. I think I'm through about 17 of them at this point. It's not like a by the hour thing, but I won't get all 34, and I'll get to 21, and I'll feel defeated, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
look at all the ones that I got to move to tomorrow, right?
Well, you call it a reverse audit, but it might actually be the way that you actually should do it, right?
It very well could be
Because
then
if the
you
audit
create
is
energy, right?
if you're tracking distractions,
If you were
then
to be like, all right, I got hungry and I got up to do this, or I went ahead and my daughter texted and she needed help with this,
Right.
and then I started looking at posts on X, and then and you're making a justification. I'm not looking at meme videos, but you're like, oh, I do need to talk to that person. Oh, they DM'd me a question about that thing, or oh, we were just at that same conference and that's a good thing. Definitely need to send that article I promised to send to that person. Now, that's a different thing than if you wrote them down. And what I did in terms of trying to avoid the distraction, I added within the last year, and this is after 40 years of trying to study some of this stuff. We have tremendously good content in our Admired Leadership platform on making time to lead and how you do prioritize that. But we were just talking the other day about Stephen Covey wrote a book about time management that people don't really remember, but that idea of developing that ability to focus on the things that are not urgent, right? That was really unique. That it's not focus on the things that are important and urgent. Like a lot of people say, yeah, you need to focus on the important urgent things. No, you need to focus on the important not urgent things, because then your urgent box gets a lot smaller, right? You're preventing the expansion of that box. I don't even hear that talked about that much these days, right? Because we're in this other world where we're so hyper distracted all the time that is the real crisis of all of our time is, are we losing not only the ability to focus, because attention in a world of infinite facts becomes, to use a cognitive science term, combinatorially explosive. And in fact, it's there's plenty of literature out there about sort of misery and unhappiness and loneliness and all of this, and we're just living in a time where that is so pervasive that you're like, well, something is wrong and about the way that we're situating ourselves, with reality. A very simple thing like a distraction audit might be revelatory, because it might help you reframe the way that you're paying attention to the world. And as you pay attention to the world differently, the world, as far as you matter in it, changes dramatically.
right. Now it's interesting the way that
That was like a little mini, rant. Sorry.
I think it's great, but it's based on like personal philosophical approach to this. Like if you're not interested in doing this, you'll never naturally do it. Your mom is not going to nag you into being able to do a distraction audit until you finally do one, right? And your doctor's not going to do it either, right? It's something that you have to be like, I want my productivity to go up. I probably think I'm distracted a little too much, but I haven't really taken time to look under the hood at myself, as opposed to the way that most people would interact with this subject and be like, are we as a society too distracted? And therefore, how do we do that? So I go into, last couple times I've been into Walmart, I'm noticing how many people actually have earbuds in. And then Joe in our comment section actually said he used to work retail, and it was the exact same thing, right? So it was known that you shouldn't have your phone either when your back or on the floor, that you don't have your phone, right?
Right.
But everybody does.
They do.
Right.
Right.
So most people are looking at this saying like, it's impossible. How do you, like, as a leader who's trying to help other people be distraction free, they're just looking for ways to distract themselves in the middle of the day. And he told the story specifically about like somebody unloading a crate, and she was odd in her movements, and he walked up, and sure enough, she had her phone positioned inside the crate that she was unloading and watching a movie while she was right. And so then it became really clear, right? But then here's this thing that's like, even while he is wondering how to get her to be more productive, he's got an earpiece in himself, right? Listening to a podcast, but his version of distraction is better than her version of distraction. But either way, both of them are violations. And now, and he's trying to figure out like, how do I make it not a big deal because everybody does it? And the only time we're ever going to say we shouldn't do this is when the regional manager comes in and we have to make like a store-wide announcement to let everybody know that, you know, the phone rule is real today.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Which we're not going to enforce it the rest of the time. Right?
Yeah. So I don't know how to even begin with the idea, unless it's just, this is a rule that we have to enforce in a double duty kind of way to make sure that the punishment for it is so great that you don't even think about bringing your phone into work with you, right? Which is what our school system is going through right now, like trying to eliminate distractions.
Right.
There's a handful of students who don't need the rule at all, right? And those are the people who would probably look at this field note and read it from a point of view and be like, oh, how can I be even more productive, right? So it almost feels like this field note is just written for those 2% of students who are actually interested in making themselves more and more productive. The rest of us are stuck saying like, I've got 90 employees who never get rid of their phone, and I'd have a mutiny on my hands if I actually suggested it, right? So how to actually go through this world is so that being said, in the meme where you look at people on their phones and then you have the photo from the 1920s where everyone's reading the newspaper and just is not paying attention to each other, is this our current thing, or is it really a problem, like from a society point of view? And again, the field note, it doesn't even matter about that. So to talk about your rant versus my rant, here's the rant, right? This is about you, right? This is about you saying, I want to be this kind of a leader. I want to be this kind of performer. And so if you recognize it in yourself, this is absolutely something you need to do. Whether or not you're actually applying this kind of audit to your team of 90 people, completely different story, right?
Yeah.
Let's just deal with you.
And I do think, you know, I've mentioned recently a couple of times on these Lead Better conversations that I had been rereading Oliver Burkeman's book, Meditations for Mortals. And his earlier book to that, 4,000 Weeks, was also very good. But there's things I disagree with, because the Meditation with Mortals is a very philosophical work. It's really not a time management book in that sense. It's an approach to the very nature of life, and time is the substance of our lives. And he's taking a much more, you know, like, let's think in a very large context about this. And a big part of that, and he brings in lots of different philosophical traditions, faith traditions, and he's pulling from Buddhism, and he's listening to this, and he's listening to Christian thought, and he's pulling in these threads. And, you know, and he, you know, at one point, you know, he's talking about like not being a slave to this idea that if I just get a handle on everything, if I can just get that to-do list managed, if I can just not be distracted enough, that I'll be able to get over the hump of this part, and then ultimately someday I'll get to this point where I'm like, oh yeah, now I'm finally got it. Because that day will never, ever come for anyone. Even the most productive person. So you'll live in the tension and the tyranny of that.
Letting go of that in your mind is a good first step then, right?
Yes, right. Now, the question is, it's not like you just go like, well, all right, I'll just do whatever comes down the pike. No, we're driven by, as human beings, we're goal directed and oriented, and we should be looking to make things better in the world in some way. And so that's where, in fact, that's where we find our greatest satisfaction and happiness. And when you can really sense your energy level coming up around the things that you really would like to be focused on and doing that are not just distractions, but are quality work. So I like that, and I think that I think in that book, Bergman makes one mention to a guy named Richie Norton, who's kind of a fun guy to watch. I think he comes across like a philosophy professor, but he's like, all right, you can decide in your mind, the kind of life you want to live, the kind of person you can see yourself being. Well, just begin acting as you are that person, right now, right? So if you want to say, I don't want to be a distracted person, well, then be undistractable. There was a book by that name. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that wrote that. Just be a person. Say, I'm undistractable. I can concentrate like I'm like some Roman philosopher. And you can get a little bit better at that, and then let go of some of those other things, and you're going to have a much more productive and happier and healthier life. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Yeah. But it's an individual decision. I hope you're making it, and an audit. Like what do you think now? Once a year, once a quarter, once a month?
Oh, I think it's a good thing to do. Like now, I already track, like I use things to track daily sort of tasks and chores, and I track things in my diet and nutrition plan. So I'm accustomed to doing those kind of things. So it's not a big deal for me to keep in my notebook and write down distraction. I think you kind of do it on it. I think if you only did it once a year, you're going to lose the ability to say, let me see. I think it almost has to be more of a once a day for like a 3-week period where you're like hyper attuned to it.
Yes.
And it really starts to become a part of you.
I don't think it's a daily thing. I agree that in order to really get this tracking down, your audit might take an entire month for you to understand what your real behaviors are. Yeah.
So
big commitment. Who's willing to do it? Yeah.
Well, some people clicked in. They should have been doing something else. They decided to listen to us instead right now.
Yes.
Who knows why?
And we convinced people never to listen to us again by having this subject.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, no, we love doing this, and we're glad you're here. So
yeah, talk tomorrow. Bye now.
All right, bye.